Hi, I am Pia, and I lead Platform Developer Experience. Welcome to the Spotify for Backstage Roadmap webinar. This is our first ever roadmap webinar for Backstage, and we're super excited to be here with you all today. We intend to host this forum on a regular basis and to give you updates from our teams, as well as share how we are intending to bring more value to the community. And we have a great line of speakers lined up for you today. June is an engineering manager in the Backstage teams. Sri is leading product for Soundcheck. Meg is leading overall Backstage product. And Lauren is our business development lead. And together, we will be speaking about how we're going to enhance the plugin bundle that we just released. We're going to deep dive with Soundcheck with Sri. And Meg is going to take us through the future priorities and roadmap for Backstage. We're going to finish it all off with a Q&A that is led by Lauren. So please feel very welcome to add your questions in the Q&A feature of Zoom as we go through the content. But first, I'd like to take some time to reflect on Spotify's own Backstage journey and how we believe you can become more effective with Backstage. In 2016, when I joined the platform team at Spotify, our engineers were reporting that there were two main productivity blockers for them. The first one being that they were unable to find the things in the ecosystem. The second biggest productivity blocker was that they were interrupted all the time, presumably by others that were trying to find the things in the ecosystem. What had happened was that we had an increasingly complex software ecosystem, and it was simply difficult to figure out who was owning a service, where to find that API, and the docs for it. This is when we realized we needed to build a single pane of glass so that all of our R&D teams could go to one place to find everything they needed. This is when the idea of Backstage was born. We shipped it in 2018, building on another internal system. And then if you fast forward to 2020, Backstage had become incredibly critical to our business. This is when we realized we wanted to open source Backstage. We open sourced Backstage for mainly two reasons. The first one being that we love open source. We're big users of open source ourselves and contributors. We wanted to share Backstage with the wider community because we knew we had something fantastic. The second reason was that we simply needed Backstage to become the preferred developer portal in the industry, because that way we wouldn't have to migrate off it a few years down the line if there was some other developer portal coming along, becoming the de facto industry standard. So we simply needed Backstage to become the best developer portal in the market. And luckily, this strategy turned out to be the right one. Today, we have more than 4 million end users using Backstage and over 1,000 companies adopting Backstage. It's a joy and a win-win for Spotify to communicate and collaborate so much with the open source community. We are benefiting so much from the open source contributions that we are, of course, running internally. And we are able to ship immediately of our innovation to the Backstage open source, which, of course, is because we are building Backstage in the open. Now, let's look at how an adopter can become effective with Backstage. This is how we talk about the Backstage vision. Backstage solves for speed, scale, and chaos control. However, I would like to share with you the 3 strategies that we have been using over the years and that we're still using, which of course a Backstage adopter can also leverage in order to increase their effectiveness in their organizations. The first strategy is to solve common software development challenges. Now, what are those? So look for, in your engineering community, what are the common needs and challenges that spans across several disciplines and potentially several departments? Look for those needs and try to figure out how to simplify the lives of your engineers. As an example from Spotify, most of our teams are multidisciplinary. However, the workflow for building a backend service, an ML model, or a data pipeline differs. And this is one of the things that we are looking into simplifying for our engineers. The second strategy is to try to reduce that operational toil by driving engineering best practices. So to get to a coherent tech stack, we use the concept of a golden path. If you build your component according to our golden path, which is our supported way of building stuff, your component would end up in the golden state. And here is where we built Soundcheck. So we built Soundcheck in order to visualize these engineering best practices tracks, as we call them. So in our Soundcheck, we have a golden state track where we can monitor the entire fleet's golden state alignment, so tech health, more or less. And we can help nudge all of the R&D teams through notifications and alerts to keep that fleet fresh. The third strategy is to increase collaboration across our teams. This is why we built Skill Exchange, which is our marketplace for collaboration. Any team member can go to Skill Exchange and sign up for a hack, sign up for an embed, which is a short-term collaboration opportunity, become a mentor or a mentee, or take a course. 70% of our engineers visit Skill Exchange on a quarterly basis. Now, we believe driving cross-team collaboration and learning is a key factor in order to become more effective as an organization. So hopefully all of these strategies make sense to you. But how are we doing on sort of measuring the value of Backstage? How do we actually know that Backstage helps us become more effective? We get this question a lot. How do I measure the value of Backstage? So recently we conducted some research on our own Backstage usage to check out how we are doing. And this is what we found. Out of the 100% of Backstage users, the 50% more frequent users are 2.3 times more active in our GitHub instance. And their pull requests are 17%, have a 17% faster cycle time. Pretty astounding. If you want to know more, please check out the blog post that you see here on our blog, backstagespotify.com. And of course, these are our numbers. But we're seeing similar numbers being published by other adopters. For example, Toyota Motors North America. They recently conducted a research on their own Backstage implementation on top of their AWS stack, and discovered that they had saved over $10 million in savings because of their Backstage implementation. Pretty miraculous, I believe. Now, how are we bringing all of this value to you? In December, we launched the Spotify plugins for Backstage bundle. And this bundle consists of some of our most successful internally built plugins that we have built over many years and battle tested, as well as some brand new plugins that are designed to bring greater value to the Backstage adopters. And the reception here of our plugins has been fantastic. Jon, who's up next, will share more about how our teams are doing and what they have been shipping since December and what's coming next. Take it away, Jon.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Pia. My name is June. I am one of the engineering managers here and working on Backstage. Thank you to everyone to take their time to join us today. I want to start with a quick overview of everything that we launched in December. So you might have heard of the Spotify plugins for Backstage. This plugin bundle is a paid subscription available to all Backstage adopters. The bundle subscription includes 5 plugins designed to address different aspects of developer experience and engineering culture. As Pia mentioned, some of these plugins are external versions of some of the most popular homegrown plugins we've relied on for years at Spotify, with thousands of Spotifyers using them daily. Plugins like Soundcheck, which help you ensure that all of your software is built to the engineering standards that you expect, while making it easy for your engineers to know about and follow those standards. You'll hear later from Sri about Soundcheck, and that is another one of those plugins. Spotify created Soundcheck in an effort to draw a straight line between an individual developer's decision-making to our top-line goals for engineering excellence and quality. So just by showing our developers our opportunities to improve the tech health, we've driven significant decreases in technology fragmentation. Skill Exchange is another one of these internally battle-tested plugins. It's a powerful tool to promote a culture of self-led growth and expand the abilities of your entire R&D community. By ensuring that your developers are always learning, always motivated, always collaborating on something fun, exciting, and of course, critical to your business. Skill Exchange actually started as a hack. The hack project was designed to provide more visibility to opportunities and scale the effort to connect Spotifyers to the experiences and people that could help them build their technical skills. As was previously mentioned, thousands of hacks and hundreds of embeds and mentorship opportunities happen on Spotify's own Skill Exchange. And Pulse is a plugin that lets you keep track of all this, helping you understand and measure the feelings and experiences of your team and capitalizing on ways to improve the health of your organization over the long term. The Pulse plugin is an R&D survey framework that lets you track key self-reported productivity and satisfaction metrics. It also lets you analyze, anonymize response data, and visualize those trends and insights, all within Backstage. Kind of like Soundcheck, Pulse is ultimately a decision-making tool for Spotify. Pulse helps us determine the future of our products, how we address unmet needs, how we build with empathy by gathering the right data. This data from Pulse helps us make informed decisions about where to invest and improve the development experience for our Spotify engineers. In other cases, though, we listened to the community on enterprise features they needed to make Backstage more powerful and easier to adopt. We created the following plugins to meet those specific needs and help unlock more value for companies using Backstage. Role-based access control is one of those plugins. RBAC, as we call it, is an out-of-the-box solution to control access and data within your Backstage instance. And Insights helps you measure usage of Backstage within your organization so you can have visibility into how adoption is really working. All 5 of these plugins are designed to complement the open source core, bringing even more of Spotify's experience and maturity with Backstage to the overall platform. So the overarching question we asked ourselves when developing these plugins was, will this make Backstage more powerful and useful for open source adopters? And that's the question we continue to ask ourselves as we evolve the bundle subscription. Thus far, we've gotten a ton of great feedback from customers and have worked to address gaps and build more features into the plugins. I want to highlight a few of those things, starting with Skill Exchange. So Skill Exchange has now fully migrated off of its Docker backend service. So this means that the installation of the plugin works exactly the same as other Backstage plugins, which of course makes this much easier to maintain. Skill Exchange also now has Slack integration, meaning you can not only sign up to be notified of embeds and mentorships, but you can also reach out directly to owners of Skill Exchange posts using Slack. RBAC has received a whole slew of new features since launch, including import-export, policy diffing, locally saved drafts. There's actually a few more that I haven't even mentioned here, like default policy configuration. Soundcheck also has a very new exciting feature called the Fact Framework. You'll actually get to hear more in detail about this in a few minutes. And this is just a small slice of the upgrades that the bundle has gotten since launch. As you can probably tell, our bundle is in very active development and new features are being added all the time as we get more and more feedback. We've also just now launched a release notes page on backstage.spotify.com. You can see the link on your screen, where you'll be able to see new updates on a monthly basis. Okay, so we're going to dive now into giving you a bit of a sneak peek into what's coming up for each of our plugins here. As I mentioned before, you're going to be getting a more in-depth deep dive into Soundcheck in a bit, so we'll skip that for now, but we'll start with RBAC. So some things you can look forward to here. We've actually already released scaffolder integration with the permission framework in the open source. So RBAC can now seamlessly take advantage of that. This is available to you now if you're already using RBAC. RBAC's already gone through some accessibility enhancements as well, but there are more to come. Meg will provide some more detail on that later in this webinar. Policy testing is also in the works. I will say this is early stage, but we're really hoping this feature will provide users with more confidence in their policies. For skill exchange, again, we touched on that Docker backend removal a bit earlier, how this greatly simplifies installation and maintenance. And again, this is available now. We've also been making some tech investments to bring more of the features that we vetted and tested at Spotify to you faster. Skill Exchange will also recommend embeds, mentorships, and hacks to users based on the user's skill profile, including the skills they can help with and the ones that they're learning. This will help users reduce the time to discover Skill Exchange posts that match their goals and interests by allowing Skill Exchange to do the searching for them. It will also help post owners get more visibility and reduce the time to find matches. And lastly, members of your organization will be able to highlight and label high priority embed opportunities like company initiatives. This should help organization members speed up the time to find support by indicating the priority and impact of an embed. It will also help users gain additional context and understanding about embed opportunities when deciding to participate in an embed. For insights, our team is currently hard at work on some very exciting stuff. You will no longer need to log into backstage.spotify.com to view your insights. Instead, you should be able to install it in your Backstage instance, just like any other plugin. We're also bringing some much needed elaborations to your data exploration capabilities through the addition of something we're calling adoption reports. We think these will help you getting a better understanding of what's really going on in your Backstage instance and help you understand the pattern of your users better, especially for the core plugins mentioned here, like catalog, search, and scaffolder. Going right into Pulse, we've got extended question sets. So at the moment, Pulse asks your R&D team a handful of questions to surface only the most important high-level productivity and satisfaction metrics. But we know the R&D experience is obviously more than just these high-level metrics. So we're extending our survey with additional questions to capture even deeper insights around additional topics like common blockers, tech debt, and routine tasks. We also know that survey response data can be hard to contextualize. For example, is it good or bad when we see that 41% of our R&D community feels that they regularly achieve a state of flow? So we're working on providing industry benchmarks to you to help give more context to the data that you can get back from your team. Another way we're looking to add context is by allowing survey respondents to respond with free text rather than just multiple choice. Free text responses are obviously a super powerful tool to help you understand your R&D experience more deeply and identify more opportunities for improvement. And with that, I will hand it over to Shri with a deep dive on Soundcheck plugin enhancements.
Thanks, John. Hey everyone, I'm Shri Chandrasekharan. I'm a senior product manager on the team that is responsible for Soundcheck. I'm here today to dive into Soundcheck and share more about the enhancements we've been working on. Let's start by looking at what challenges Soundcheck solves for. Pre-Soundcheck at Spotify there were around 30,000 plus software components in Backstage, and that number was growing fast. Manual methods to track and maintain these components did not scale. For example, we had the service operational quality checklist floating around that tracked the quality of services owned by squads across standards like security, recoverability, and maintainability, etc., scoring them between poor and excellent using color codes. Imagine maintaining such checklists for 30,000 plus components. We were not able to drive any engineering best practices, and we realized that we had a problem to solve. This led our internal teams to build a tool that made it easier to track development and operational standards and to measure the tech health of their software components, and enter SoundCheck, the solution to our problems that provided our teams with strong guidance to cultivate behavior and improve our organization's DevOps practices. Over time at Spotify, SoundCheck has evolved from a quality and reliability tool to a plugin that has fundamentally changed our tech health ecosystem. We've been able to drive greater adherence to our best practices in a Spotify way, which really means focusing on bottoms-up initiatives versus top-down mandates. You likely have your own version of the golden state at your company, but that's just one thing you can measure. With SoundCheck, you can map any program, which we define as a set of operational standards or a long-term tech health initiative that you might have. At Spotify, we have programs related to security, testing, reliability, and are working on many more to come. We have road tested the concept of SoundCheck within Spotify for years and have seen encouraging impact from using the plugin at Spotify. For starters, Golden Technologies is the set of technologies we expect most of our software components within Spotify to use. We are at greater than 66% adoption of Golden Tech adoption for web and mobile using SoundCheck. Having software components that look and work in similar ways lowers the cost of collaboration, greatly simplifies the ownership of components, and enables us to reduce toil via automation. We've also seen developers developing code faster. In 2022, we saw up to a 46% decrease in time spent waiting for PR builds and tests, which amounts to 35 FTEs saved. Last year, we also saw developers iterating on their code faster, dropping time to run build invocations by 56%, which is equivalent to saving 8 FTEs. Lastly, we saw mobile developer satisfaction increase from 50 to 75% between Q4 2021 to Q4 2022. This is likely because developers were able to iterate faster on their features, and they feel more productive as well as creative, making mobile development fun at Spotify. We are so excited about these stats and are eager to keep iterating on our external SoundCheck plugin to help other companies realize similar value. As June shared, in December, we released a MVP of SoundCheck as part of the Backstage commercial plugin bundle and saw a ton of interest for the plugin among Backstage adopters. The SoundCheck MVP provides a mechanism by which checks can be organized into programs and their results visualized within Backstage. Adopters see the need and value of features like scorecards, health checks, and actionable feedback loops, and this drives consistent demand for the plugin. Since releasing the MVP in December, we've had a great opportunity to work directly with customers and listen to your feedback. In particular, we have heard your requests for third-party tool integrations, ability for adopters to extend and make API calls to other tools, and your feedback that there is a high barrier to entry for organizations that may not have these types of frameworks already in place. We have started to address some of that feedback. In March, we released the SoundCheck Fact Framework and third-party integrations. Organizations may leverage the SoundCheck Fact Framework, which provides a mechanism by which SoundCheck itself can collect facts, which are unopinionated pieces of information about an entity in the Backstage, and executes the checks based on those facts. This means that customers no longer have to manually push check results to SoundCheck to make a check go from red to green. Instead, SoundCheck will evaluate facts against rules you specify and submit results on your behalf. SoundCheck now supports 2 out-of-box third-party integrations, namely source control management and GitHub. This SCM module, for example, allows for fact extraction from the files hosted by SCM providers like GitHub, Bitbucket, etc. The GitHub Fact Collector enables SoundCheck to gather facts regarding GitHub repositories. As an added bonus, We also delivered integrations to Bitbucket, Gerrit, and GitLab. Here is a short demo of the fact framework and third-party integrations by Brian Hudson, the delivery lead on the Soundcheck team.
Hi, I'm Brian Hudson, a software engineer here at Spotify supporting the Soundcheck plugin. And today I'll be demonstrating Soundcheck with an emphasis on the fact framework and our recent third-party integrations. So here I'm viewing a component called Soundcheck External Demo within Backstage. We can see it's enrolled in a single Soundcheck program called Golden State. Viewing the details for this program, you can see that we have two levels. We're failing a number of checks within level 1, but passing a couple of them, and we're failing all checks in level 2. The first two checks here has production lifecycle and has PagerDuty relate to this component's metadata within Backstage's software catalog. Has production lifecycle is looking for our production service here to have a lifecycle of production. And the has PagerDuty check is verifying that we have a PagerDuty integration key annotation defined. If I go to my component, I can edit my catalog info YAML file to add the required metadata. Commit these changes. And once this information synchronizes with Backstage's software catalog, we should see these checks flip from failing to passing. So now we're passing those checks. We're going to skip down to some of our recommendations and best practices. Here we're failing a has README check. So this is demonstrating some of our integrations with source code control management tools like GitHub or GitLab. In this case, it's looking for this component to have a README file at the root of its repository, which it currently does not. And secondly, we have one recommending that we minify our build. So this is demonstrating Soundcheck's ability to extract facts from JSON files based on a JSON path. In this case, it's looking at our package JSON file, looking to our build script, and seeing that we're not issuing the minify command. So we'll go back to our component, and we will update our package as a JSON file to include the minify flag. We'll commit that change. And we'll add a README file to root. All right, so once again, flipping back to Soundcheck, we should see that these checks flip from failing to passing as Soundcheck reaches back out to GitHub and sees these changes. All right, so now we're passing those. These last two checks requires at least 2 approving reviews and requires code owner reviews are related to the GitHub integration. Specifically, this is looking at your branch protection settings. So I'm going to update our branch protection rules for this branch. I'm going to require pull requests with at least 2 approvers, and we're going to require a review from code owners. We're going to save these changes, and we should eventually see these synchronized back to Soundcheck, and we'll be passing those checks. Okay, flipping back to Soundcheck. We should see this now flip to passing. All right, and now those facts have synchronized, the checks have rerun, and we're now passing both branch protection rules. As you saw, there's a little confetti surprise if you actually become certified within Golden State, which we've just done. So this was a quick demo of Soundcheck and its most recent additions, including the fact framework and third-party integrations. Hi, I'm Brian Hudson, a software engineer here at Spotify supporting the Soundcheck.
We are excited to keep delivering value for Soundcheck customers and make the plugin easier to use. Right now, we are currently working on a no-code UI for adding checks and programs without needing to write code, which is tentatively scheduled to be released in July. In Q3, we plan to release aggregations and reporting within Soundcheck, showing how components and teams are doing, along with the ability to view and export reports by component and team. Lastly, for Q4 and beyond, we plan to release visualizations, trends, graphs, historical views, and alerts and notifications when levels change. We're also planning to add one more third-party integration, namely PagerDuty. And other than this, we have on our backlog more third-party integrations like SNCC, SonarQube, and Argo CD, and better search capabilities. We're constantly monitoring feedback from users and updating our roadmap as we go. And with that, I'll turn it over to Meg who's going to talk about what's up next for Backstage.
Great. Thank you, Shri. Hi, everyone. For those I haven't met, my name is Meg Watson, and I lead product for Backstage here at Spotify. I'm very excited to share more about our product vision and where we're headed for the rest of 2023. In December, we talked a lot about our hypothesis that Spotify's business, and really any business, hinges on helping developers contribute effectively and build awesome software. And we really believe that happiness, productivity, and engagement are the cornerstone of every organization's success. Backstage's success in open source and its evolution as a mission-critical tool for Spotify's R&D teams has shown us that there's opportunity to make that true not only for engineering teams, but for all of the folks involved in developing software across your organization. Because of our rich experience with Backstage, we believe that Spotify is uniquely positioned to build compelling solutions to problems all organizations face, like scaling successfully, navigating complexity, and empowering teams. So here's what we'll be thinking about in the months ahead. We're starting off with more investment from Spotify in removing barriers to adopting Backstage. We know that the success and evolution of the underlying Backstage open source project is essential to our long-term success for Backstage. So we're focused on improvements we believe will make it easier than ever to onboard and find value with Backstage. Most notably, we're addressing adoption barriers head-on and are focused on improving the installation experience, making it easier to get up and running with the software catalog, and leveraging partnerships to distribute Backstage more broadly. Next, we're also exploring new products and services to enable Spotify to continue contributing to and supporting the community. As mentioned, we have been floored by the traction and success of our plugins so far. We have heard a ton of great feedback from our early customers, and you've heard from our team already on the areas we're focused on improving the plugins that are already in the market. We're also going to be launching brand new products and services that meet untapped adopter needs and create revenue streams for Spotify to continue our investment in the Backstage platform. One area we're particularly excited to explore is professional services, where we'll be looking to offer more hands-on support to a small subset of customers. Additionally, we want to continue supporting the evolution of Backstage's core platform alongside the community. Most notably, we're exploring investments to the software catalog to make it easier to get up and running, and are also evaluating opportunities to improve performance of the catalog. We know that the software catalog is the backbone of what makes Backstage successful across so many organizations, and we're grateful to the community, especially the catalog special interest group, for contributing alongside Spotify. Finally, on the user experience side, we're building enhancements to improve the core Backstage experience for ourselves internally at Spotify and for you all as well. Accessibility is at the heart of what we believe here at Spotify, and we're committed to continuing to make the project inclusive to all. With that, we're excited to share that we're bringing our plugins and core components, including the software catalog, scaffolder, tech docs, and search, into compliance with Article 508 requirements. We will deliver these improvements by Q3 of this year. Additionally, in an effort to bake accessibility practices even further into the process of developing within Backstage, Spotify has recently rolled out automated CI tests within the open source project. While these are non-blocking, we're hopeful that the tooling will push us all to consider the accessibility implications of work within Backstage in order to build a great experience for everyone. As we look ahead for the user experience, we'll continue to leverage our internal Spotify user base to help us bring the experience forward. As we do so, we'll look out for opportunities to share our internal learnings with the community in the spirit of bringing us forward together. So let's dive a little further into removing barriers to adoption. As Pia mentioned, the open source project recently celebrated a new milestone with over 1,000 adopters leveraging Backstage around the world. But we also hear feedback that Backstage can be tough to get started with. As adopters get started, there's no right place to begin, and that can make the onboarding and adoption journey pretty challenging. We've heard that feedback loud and clear. For many organizations who choose Backstage and to work with Spotify as commercial customers, the pain points are similar. It's hard to navigate expansive data sets and dueling sources of truth. It can be difficult to drive cultural change and to communicate best practices to a broader org. And it often feels like learning from scratch rather than leveraging a golden path. We believe that Backstage can help solve these problems, and we're excited to share more about how Spotify is improving the onboarding experience for the folks championing it inside their organizations. Most notably, we're investing in a quick start for Backstage experience that will enable adopters to get up and running much faster by removing the need to stand up and maintain a code base in order to adopt Backstage. This means that adopters who use Quick Start will benefit from dramatically reduced cost of maintenance by reducing the need to make code changes or redeploy. Quick Start complements the open source framework, but will come prepared with built-in opinionation from Spotify. Our aim is for Quick Start to make it easier than ever to get started with Backstage, to find out how it can work for your development teams, and to enable you to really focus on building. We've already begun working with members of the open source community to identify and shape capabilities that will benefit the community at large. And we're super excited to release key capabilities within Quick Start as open source or as a free product with source code proprietary to Spotify. As we look ahead, we see Quick Start as the solution for adopters who are interested in a more curated on-ramp that enables a quicker starting point and a reduced maintenance cost. In addition to Quick Start, we've also been investing in understanding how adopters currently find and validate plugins to add to their Backstage instance. What we've learned is that while the open source plugin ecosystem is very rich and continues to grow, there's no easy way of understanding which of the 100 plus open source plugins are actively maintained, secure, and validated. Additionally, it's difficult to find the right options when your needs evolve and may not be able to be supported by open source offerings alone. We believe that Spotify can help, so we're investing in a Spotify marketplace for Backstage that will provide a trusted set of resources to help as your organization's needs evolve. The marketplace will contain solutions from Spotify and from trusted third-party partners. Our goal is to make it easy to find what you need throughout your experience using Backstage, and we want to make it easier than ever to add new features as your needs evolve. All of the capabilities available within our marketplace will work seamlessly with Quick Start and will enable users to easily add add-ons within a few clicks. We will be conducting research throughout the months ahead to ensure we're delivering the marketplace that will meet the needs of our adopters, and we're excited to share more with you in the days ahead. A huge thank you to the nearly 100 adopters who have already given us feedback to inform these investments. We're working to establish key third-party partnerships that will help us round out our marketplace, and we'll be sharing more on those as well. Please look out for additional announcements for both Quick Start and the marketplace. On the bundle side, we're thrilled with the engagement we've seen to date. We're continuing to explore additional areas within our internal toolset and are honing in on a few exciting opportunities. As I've touched on, we believe that Backstage can continue to add more value within your organization. To do so, we need to ensure it's able to solve even more cases and for more users than ever before. With that, we're excited to share more with you about the way Spotify approaches experimentation and feature flagging, data management, and navigating compliance. Within the data space in particular, we are focusing on enabling a data culture that brings order and speed without compromising for autonomy. We've learned a lot, and we've tested and scaled Backstage within our own organization, and we're just getting started on sharing our best offerings with you. I've talked quite a bit today about what we're doing, and I hope it's been helpful to see this direction. When we first launched our commercial offering back in December 2022, we elected to start by engaging deeply with a small group of customers so we could build confidence in our plugins and focus on delivering rapid improvements. Now we are more confident than ever in our current bundle and the additions still to come. We hope you'll join us on this journey by attending a demo to learn more about our plugin bundle, and we look forward to meeting with you soon to hear more about your use cases. We'll be following up with a recording of today's webinar to be shared on YouTube and a blog recap of what we've covered. Thank you again for joining us. So with that, we will be moving into Q&A led by our Head of Business Development, Lauren Chang.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Meg. Hey, everyone. I'm Lauren, and I lead business development for Backstage. First of all, I want to thank everyone for their participation today, to all of our existing customers and potential customers for your engagement in helping to influence our roadmap. And to our panelists, our amazing panelists that are building all these great things we're releasing over the coming months. We've come a long way. Now, let's hear what questions you have for us. We'll aim to cover the most frequently asked questions in the session, And for those of you that have asked technical questions related to specific plugins, the best place to get these answered will be our weekly Thursday demos, where you can speak directly with the plugin owning team. All right, so first question that we're going to get into. Is the pricing of the Spotify plugins going to be public at some point? Any plans on this? Great question, and I definitely get this all the time. Our intention is absolutely to have public pricing at some point, and we do recognize that we lack pricing transparency today. And this is because we want to remain flexible as our offering evolves and as we continue to learn about your needs. As we launch new plugins and new products like the marketplace, our goal is to build relationships with our customers, have open discussions, and understand the value that we can bring to your organization so that we can price accordingly. What we can share today is that we are following a per seat model for now. We found that this has worked successfully in our conversations to date. That said, we remain open to the idea that alternative models may work better for our customers in the future. Okay, great. So the next question that we have is, are you offering one single bundle for all plugins, or can they be bundled differently? So right now, we are offering one single bundle for all of our plugins, but as our offering grows, it is very possible we may break out our offering into several bundles. So let's say, for example, a productivity bundle or a security bundle. For now, we've opted for it to be a single bundle because we believe that there are several levers that you need to pull to see the lift in developer effectiveness that we've seen at Spotify. And we want to remove the barriers to trying all of those plugins together. All right, next question. Let's say you have a single team with a domain-specific need. Would the addition of a new feature covering the need of that team be eligible for the golden path? Or do solutions that affect only one team stay out of the golden path? For this one, I think I'm going to kick it off to June to answer.
Yeah, happy to answer this one. So golden paths internally at Spotify, it is true that they are there to capture, what you would call the most common needs that the engineering organization faces. Of course, that standardization is important for the purpose of the golden path. That said, there are obviously cases internally as well when specific needs come up, new needs come up for doing stuff that teams haven't necessarily tried before. And in that case, we actually treat it more as a new golden path for that specific problem that you might be tackling. And so a different standardization might spin up. And of course, as you probably can guess, more teams will come, and as they start to have more of those problems, they can see that, oh, somebody else has established something. And of course, all these golden paths too, they're not static, right? Like they get reevaluated as teams tackle it multiple times, additions come up. And there's a concept as well that, in the future, we actually want to look at these less concrete paths that have a very long, start to finish, like tutorial length, more in terms of little chunks of like standardized, snippets. We have probably some plans we're not ready to share yet, but in tackling some things like that as well. So great question.
Awesome. Thanks so much, June. All right, moving on to some questions around our marketplace. So what types of solutions will be available on the marketplace? I will pass it off to Meg.
Sure. Yeah, great question. So our goal with the marketplace is to truly make this a one-stop shop type of product, such that you can find whatever you might need as your needs with Backstage continue to evolve. So in there, we're thinking about including both open source and commercial offerings, for example. We're also thinking deeply about the way that our capabilities become super robust as well. So that will lean heavily on both the solutions we're providing from Spotify and also the third-party partnerships that I've voiced over today. Our goal is ultimately just like, let's make it as easy as possible to find what you need to be able to add additional capabilities as your needs evolve. And we're really optimistic that the marketplace can be a huge support there. So much more to come on this one, but generally speaking, we want that to be a very, very helpful space to all of you.
Thanks so much, Meg. And related to that, next question is, what all cloud providers can we integrate with Backstage, like GCP, AWS? And then there was another question around any update on the numbers of cloud provider plugins for GCP. So I will pass that off to Pia.
Great question, thanks. So Backstage is built cloud agnostic, and this has been very important to us as we love the cloud providers so much. We actually have 3 of them, so we are running on 3 clouds at the same time. And as Meg was sharing earlier, we are collaborating very deeply with several of them in how to stand up a Backstage instance as simple as possible on their offering. At the moment, you can see on backstage.io docs integrations, you will see what integrations we have, and you will see there that we have integrations with all 3 clouds. I think that's it. Anything else I forgot to say, Meg?
I don't think so. Nailed it.
Cool. Thanks for the question.
Awesome. Thanks, Pia. All right, next question. Do you have any case studies being generated as part of your partner program? It would be helpful not only from a commercial adoption perspective, but also to build a sense of community across enterprise users. Great question. Absolutely. We are currently working on these with our existing customers. So be on the lookout. We'll be sharing these out in our communication channels once they're ready. All right, next question. For organizations looking to launch Backstage, what size team and roles do you recommend or see others implement and maintain Backstage, including your commercially available plugins? Meg, you want to give that a go?
Yeah, sure thing. Another really good question. So this is going to be a tricky one because the answer is that there is not really a one-size-fits-all answer to this question. What we typically see is that something like 2 to 5 engineers typically implement a Backstage POC. That being said, there are additional resources available on backstage.io to help you get a sense for what you might expect from something like that. You are also more than welcome to attend our office hours that we host, in which people can trade ideas and can leverage demos to help inform themselves as they get started with adoption. Looping back to what we have shared today with respect to Quick Start, our anticipation is that that will fundamentally change the answer to this question, such that we can be thinking about how to drive that down and make it easier than ever to get started, to build confidence in a proof of concept, and to ultimately get going faster. So again, just a quick recap, check out backstage.io. More than welcome to attend office hours as well as you're getting started. And then look out for additional ways that we will continue to make that easier and easier over the months ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, Meg. All right, next question around SoundCheck. Any plans to create a SoundCheck integration with Azure DevOps? Shri, can I pass that off to you?
Sure, happy to take it. This is a common question from our users, and an Azure DevOps integration is currently in our backlog. We are going to be prioritizing it pretty soon.
Thanks, Shri. Okay, next question. Have you any plans for your users to try out the premium plugins in real time? For example, a demo account, which has all the premium plugins installed, or a demo plugin installation, which we can install ourselves? I will take this one. Great question. We've definitely heard that trials and self-led discovery paths are a need, and we want to help solve this. We're currently diving deeper with customers to better understand how we can supply you with the materials you need to help make an informed decision. In the short term, we're planning to leverage better product documentation to increase confidence that the plugins can work in your Backstage instance. We'll continue to keep you informed through relevant communication channels and how we can better support this need in the future. Okay, great. Next question. As speaking of accessibility, what about the plans to update the general UI UX design? Right now, the UI UX is still quite complex. Meg, can I kick that off to you?
Yes. First of all, absolutely agree. It is quite complex. We can definitely continue to improve there. So in addition to what you heard from us today on the accessibility front, we are also investing in frankly, forming our own understanding around how transferable our internal learnings are around the core experience and how to get more and more of that insight out into the community. So the long and the short here is that this is an area that we're really excited about. We totally agree that there's huge amount of opportunity more broadly with accessibility with respect to the design system, and then also just with best practices within user experience at large. So much more to come here from Spotify. As I alluded to earlier, there is a core focus around this for the remainder of 2023 within our team. So expect to hear more, and we are totally aligned in terms of the feedback around the opportunity to improve. Thank you for your question.
Thanks, Meg. All right, next question. Any plans to add support for Azure to plugins like Cost Insights? Pia, can I ask you to answer that one?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. So for anyone who hasn't heard about Cost Insights, this is an internal plugin that we have had for several years. We built it to increase our cost awareness among our teams. So to really empower teams to make more informed decisions on cost. So the purpose of Cost Insights is to increase this awareness, because we believe the engineers actually will pick sustainable solution if they just know the data and are informed. And this has been turning out super well for us internally. We have leveraged Cost Insights many times. Internally, we call it Bend the Curve initiative, which is like bend the trend of costs, because cost always keeps increasing if you're a growing company. So Cost Insights has really been very, very helpful for us internally, and it's currently integrated with GCP because that's where most of our costs are, as in where we're running our data jobs, etc. However, we have been also looking at integrating it with other clouds, since we're moving over some traffic to both AWS as well as Azure, since several years back, actually. So this is on the roadmap. We don't yet have a launch date for this, but we're looking into it, and we're quite interested in it as we actually are leveraging more and more of a multi-cloud strategy for Spotify. So this is becoming more and more relevant also for a Spotify perspective, which is always a great thing to benefit both internal and being able to then share Cost Insights with the rest of the community.
Awesome. Thanks, Pia. Okay, there are a couple of questions around partnership opportunities and professional services, and how to get more information on that. So yes, we are absolutely interested in partnership opportunities. We have a couple of active partnerships, and we're currently building out a partner framework. The best way to get information on that, there's a form. We'll send out a link either in the chat or afterwards. There's a form on our .com website where you can fill out information about your interests or partners, and that will add you to a distribution list where we can keep you updated on how to participate, and we'll reach out over the coming weeks or months to better understand how we can work together. So I'll make sure to get that information out to everybody. Okay, I think that we are running out of time, but let's see, I think we can squeeze in one more question. So there's one question around, I think this is related to SoundCheck. Which third-party tools, with regards to CI/CD tools, do we have integrations with? Can we write and integrate custom plugins? Shri, is this something that you can answer?
Absolutely. We don't offer anything specific to CI/CD, but adopters can submit facts or check results from CI/CD themselves. So it can be, you can integrate custom plugins by yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Shri. All right. Well, I hate to wrap it up, but I think that's about all the time we have for today. Thank you again so much for the incredible participation, and we look forward to seeing you at our next roadmap webinar. Also, don't forget to sign up for our weekly demos to see how the Spotify plugins for Backstage continue to evolve. Thanks, everyone.